That Ms. Rayner wasn't at the event. Our political correspondent Jonathan Blake reports.
Keir Starmer has repeatedly insisted he did nothing wrong when he was pictured having a beer at the Durham Miners Club in the run-up to the Hartlepool by-election in April last year. At the time, indoor gatherings with people from outside your household were banned in England, except for work purposes. Labour has now said the party's deputy leader, Angela Rayner, was also present, having previously said she wasn't. A Labour spokesperson said that was a mistake and denied any cover-up, adding that there was no reason to hide her attendance. Speaking in Edinburgh today, Keir Starmer said the issue was irrelevant.
Whether Angela Rayner was there or not makes absolutely no difference. There was no breach of the rules. The matter's already been looked into. Stark contrast between that and the goings-on at Downing Street, where we know there were 50 fines issued already and an investigation still going on. So there's absolutely no comparison to be made here.
Keir did not answer questions about whether he or his staff had had any contact with Durham Constabulary. The Conservative MP for North West Durham, Richard Holden, has asked the police to reconsider their decision earlier this year to take no further action after the Metropolitan Force in London fined the Prime Minister and others for breaking lockdown rules in Downing Street.
A member of the group of British Islamic State terrorists known as the Beatles has been jailed for life in America after he admitted his role in the murder of US hostages in Syria. The families of the hostages gave statements in the Alexandria District Court in Virginia before Alexander Coty, who's 38 and originally from Paddington, was sentenced. Here's our North America editor, Sarah Smith.
Relatives of some of those kidnapped and murdered by the IS terror cell appeared in a courtroom in Virginia today to speak of the uncertainty they felt when their loved ones were in captivity and the shattering news of their death. In often tearful statements, they described how their lives were changed forever by the killings. David Haynes' wife, Dragana, told the two terrorists she hopes they live long and suffer, learning about the deaths of everyone they care about whilst they're in jail. Alan Henning's daughter, Lucy, described seeing an image of her father's murder online, saying she doesn't know if he was burned, cremated, or just left to die alone in the desert. While other relatives told the convicted men they forgave them. Alexander Coty was sentenced to life on 8 counts of conspiracy and hostage-taking resulting in death. The judge could recommend that he be separated from other inmates and kept in near solitary confinement. His co-accused, Al-Shafi El-Sheikh, was also in court to hear the family's statement. He'll be sentenced later this year.
New figures suggest there's been another sharp fall in the number of COVID-19 cases across most of the UK. The Office for National Statistics said that in the week ending the 23rd of April, almost 2.9 million people in private households were estimated to have had the disease, down a quarter from almost 3.8 million the week before. Our health correspondent Philippa Roxby has been looking at the latest numbers.
COVID levels are still high, but they are now declining sharply across the UK. The ONS said there were falls in England, Scotland and Wales, although the trend was less clear in Northern Ireland. Overall, 1 in 23 people would have tested positive for the virus, down from 1 in 17 the week before. That equates to the largest fall in coronavirus cases since the survey began in the summer of 2020, from 3.7 to 2.8 million. These figures provide the most accurate picture of COVID now that most free testing for the public has come to an end. Since the start of April, hospital admissions with COVID have been falling, while deaths have been running at more than 1,000 a week. Recent high levels of COVID were driven by the Omicron variant. That now seems to be tailing off, but the ONS says it's still too early to say if the sharp downward trend will continue.
The ONS has also revealed that the number of people absent from work because of sickness has reached its highest level for more than a decade. COVID was among many factors behind the rise. Our business correspondent Noor Nanji has the details.
In 2020, the level of sickness absence was at a record low, at 1.8% of working hours lost. Even though the pandemic was spreading, measures such as furlough, social distancing and home working meant people may have been less exposed to other illnesses, helping bring down the overall rate. But last year it climbed to 2.2% as the workforce returned to the office and new COVID variants emerged. The ONS says coronavirus accounted for nearly 1 in 4 sickness absences. Women and older workers are among groups with the highest rates. An estimated 149.3 million working days were lost because of sickness or injury last year, and that has had an effect on company finances. The Federation of Small Businesses says for its members, the average cost of sickness absence is more than £3,000 a year. It says more support is needed to help small firms to manage these costs.
The government is taking action to limit the amount of certain hormone replacement therapy products women can access to try to prevent shortages in some areas of the country. Estrogel, Ovastin cream and Promeq low dose will be limited to 3 months' supply per person. Yesterday, the Health Secretary Sajid Javid announced he'd appointed the Director General of the COVID Vaccine Task Force, Madeleine McTurnan, to head up a new HRT task force. A former Thames Valley police officer who pursued multiple women for sex after meeting them in the course of his duties has been jailed for 3.5 years. Reading Crown Court heard that Oliver Perry Smith, who was based at Newbury Station, was a sexual predator who targeted women in vulnerable positions. He pleaded guilty to 3 charges of misconduct in public office and a further 2 of unauthorised access to computer material. Channel 4 has won the rights to show England men's football matches for the next 2 years. The broadcaster will host UEFA Nations League games, qualifiers for Euro 2024 and friendlies after taking over from ITV and Sky. Our sports correspondent Andy Swift reports.
Watching England on Channel 4 used to mean this. But now, after their much-praised cricket coverage, it's football's turn. Channel 4 will screen all of Gareth Southgate's team's matches until 2024, with the exception of this winter's World Cup, which is on the BBC and ITV. Such a deal is unprecedented for the broadcaster. It will involve a total of 20 England games, starting with the Nations League fixture against Hungary in June. Channel 4's Chief Content Officer Ian Katz said he hoped its coverage would bring in substantial new audiences, just weeks after the government confirmed its intention to privatise the broadcaster. The agreement also means that all of England's matches, both men's and women's, will be live on free-to-air television for the next 2 years.
In the city, the 100 share index ended the day up 35 points at 7,545. On Wall Street a short time ago, the Dow Jones was down 939 points at 32,977. On the currency markets, the pound is trading at $1.25.7. Against the euro, sterling is at €1.19.2, making a euro worth 83.9 pence. The British billionaire Sir Jim Ratcliffe has put in a late bid to buy Chelsea Football Club for £4.25 billion. But it seems the founder of the chemicals group, Ineos, is likely to be thwarted in his attempt to purchase the club put up for sale by Roman Abramovich. Here's our sports reporter, Sarah Mulcairn.
On a day of development this evening, it has emerged that the consortium led by LA Dodgers part owner Todd Boehly is set to be named as the preferred bidder for Chelsea Football Club. Chelsea have been operating on a special licence after sanctions were imposed by the UK government on the owner Roman Abramovich following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Abramovich had put the club up for sale before the sanctions. Earlier on Friday, the British billionaire Sir Jim Ratcliffe made a £4.25 billion offer to buy Chelsea. The founder of the chemicals giant Ineos said in a statement they would invest £1.75 billion into the development of Chelsea over the next 10 years, along with £2.5 billion to a charitable trust to support victims of the war. The late offer is understood to have prompted confusion among rival bidders, and its impact remains unclear.
The final preparations are being made in New York for what's been described as the biggest fight in the history of female boxing. In the early hours of Sunday morning, the world lightweight champion Katie Taylor from Ireland will face Puerto Rico's Amanda Serrano, who's held 9 world titles across 7 different weight divisions. Our boxing correspondent Adi Adedoyan reports from New York.
The Irish and Puerto Rican fans were in good voice for the weigh-in, setting the scene for what's been described as one of the biggest nights for female boxing.
For the first women to headline Madison Square Garden.
In the 148-year history of Madison Square Garden, no women have ever headlined a boxing event. In front of 20,000 fans, Ireland's former Olympic champion Katie Taylor will defend her world titles against the Puerto Rican Amanda Serrano. It will give them a chance to enter the history books alongside some of the all-time greats of boxing, such as Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, and Jake LaMotta, who have all headlined the venue.
Challenger Tiberio Mitri of Italy jumps into the ring in Madison Square Garden to fight champion Jake LaMotta of New York.
And the significance of tonight's fight isn't lost on the current champion, Katie Taylor.
Definitely will be the best fight of my career. There's definitely something different about this fight. This is a moment of history.
This blockbuster bout is not just significant, but also lucrative. Both will earn more than $1 million. That's double the challenger's entire career earnings to now. Taylor is undefeated, but in Serrano, she's up against a boxer who's been world champion in 7 weight divisions. Many are tipping her to win.
An American family has caused panic at Israel's main international airport after trying to check in with an unexploded artillery shell. An airport official raised the alarm after a member of the family pulled the footlog explosive device from a bag and asked if it could go into a suitcase. Our correspondent in Jerusalem, John Donison, takes up the story.
There was commotion and then alarm inside the terminal at Tel Aviv's Ben Gurion Airport. Mobile phone video shows hundreds of passengers running for cover and diving to the ground. There's panic, this man says. We don't know what's happening. Everyone is on the floor. The reason soon became clear. Somebody had tried to check in for a flight with an unexploded artillery shell stashed in their luggage before pulling it from a backpack. The culprits, a family from the United States, had picked up the unexploded ordnance as a souvenir on a visit to the occupied Golan Heights, which Israel captured from Syria in the 1967 Six-Day War. Few airports in the world have tighter security than Tel Aviv, and the misjudgment has flabbergasted people here. But after being interrogated and given the all-clear, the family were eventually allowed to board their flight without their explosive memento.
Stargazers are in for a treat tomorrow morning when Venus and Jupiter, 2 of the brightest objects in the night sky, will appear to almost crash into each other. The planets pass each other every year, but this time they'll appear significantly bigger than usual because of their position in the sky. Vicky Cardwell previews the planetary spectacular.
For Gustav Holst, Venus was the bringer of peace, and Jupiter was jollity. But astronomers tomorrow will witness a clash. After creeping towards each other, Venus and Jupiter will seem to touch as they glow in the pre-dawn light. The planets will actually be millions of miles apart, but to us on Earth they will align in what's called a planetary conjunction. Professor Lucy Green is the chief stargazer at the Society for Popular Astronomy.
They'll be in the sky just separated by about the same distance as the full moon, and that's a very exciting event for astronomers. It's a really great opportunity for people to get out and have a look. Having said that, though, although it is a spectacle to see these 2 dazzling planets just side by side, it will be happening quite early in the morning.
You won't need any special equipment for this visual treat. The naked eye or binoculars should be enough. But you will need to set the alarm, as the best time to see the conjunction in the UK will be at about 5 o'clock in the morning, with those on high spots being rewarded with the best view, as the planets will be low on the horizon to the east. It won't last long, though. As the sun rises, it will wash out the sky, and the spectacle will fade.
Now for a glance at the morning papers and photographs of Boris Becker on many of the front pages. The Mirror describes his jailing as the downfall of a legend, while the Times declares it to be the fall of a champion. The Sun has a picture of an umpire at Wimbledon where Becker became the men's champion at the age of 17, declaring time. The Telegraph leads on the allegations that the Conservative MP Neil Parish watched pornography on his phone while in the Commons. It says there's growing anger among female Tory MPs about the way the party has handled the claims. According to The Guardian, Labour accused Conservative whips of initially trying to cover up for Mr Parish before deciding to suspend him from the parliamentary party. The Times headline is, "Go Now, Tories urge MP in Commons porn row." But on its front page, the Mail highlights the more supportive attitude of Mr Parish's wife. She's quoted saying, "I'm standing by him." The headlines again. One of the biggest stars of tennis, Boris Becker, is starting a 2.5-year jail sentence for hiding assets when he was declared bankrupt. An MP accused of looking at pornography in the Commons chamber has suggested he may have opened a video by accident. An inquiry has concluded the British Virgin Islands should be ruled directly from London after the Premier appeared in court in the US on drugs charges. BBC News.
Which was read by Lisa Costello. An anonymous account of life at the bar and the crisis in the British justice system. Nothing but the truth by the secret barrister is our book of the week in a couple of minutes. But first, let's have a look at the weather forecast. Before we look ahead to the bank holiday weekend, let's have a look back at Friday. And it was a day of contrast once again. In Glasgow, we saw a high of 18.5 degrees. Meanwhile, High Wycombe in Buckinghamshire saw a low of 9.2. Crittenden in Kent saw the highest daily rainfall of 2.4 millimetres, while Prestwick in Ayrshire was the sunniest place in the UK, which recorded 13.5 hours. On now with the forecast. Well, tonight, an approaching area of low pressure from the Atlantic will move into the northwest of the UK, bringing thickening cloud, wind and outbreaks of rain. England and Wales will see extensively clear skies throughout the night, with just some light variable cloud lingering around the North Sea coastline. Patches of mist or shallow fog may develop in eastern England as temperatures fall away under the clear skies. Scotland will see cloud gradually thickening from the northwest through the night, with a band of rain beginning to push over the Western Isles and into western Scotland during the early hours. Southern and eastern Scotland will remain dry with clear spells initially before turning cloudy later. Northern Ireland will become overcast through the evening, with spells of rain and drizzle likely to push eastwards overnight, and temperatures will fall to 0 to 7 degrees across England and Wales, but as low as -1 to -3 in rural spots across the East Midlands and South East. 5 to 8 degrees for Scotland and Northern Ireland. Saturday, well, low pressure will continue to sweep across Scotland and Northern Ireland through the day, bringing wet and rather windy conditions for most places. Some of the rain will be heavy across western Scotland, perhaps even with a rumble of thunder. England and Wales will start the day cold with early frost for some, but the morning will be dry with plenty of sunshine. Into the afternoon, cloud may build across northern and western England and Wales as that low pressure system gradually edges southwards. Further south and east across England, then a little fair weather cloud will bubble up as temperatures rise to highs of 17 or 18 in the warmer spots. But for most, we're looking at 14 to 16 degrees. A cooler day for Scotland and Northern Ireland, thanks to the cloud and rain with highs of 9 to 13. Sunday and Bank Holiday Monday. Well, on Sunday, the south will be cloudy and cool with outbreaks of rain and drizzle, while the north becomes brighter, drier and warmer. Monday will be largely cloudy with a few sunny breaks and a number of showers scattered around. And that's the weather forecast ahead for the Bank Holiday weekend. Now on Radio 4, the final instalment of our book of the week, the memoir of an anonymous criminal barrister.
Nothing But the Truth by the Secret Barrister. Read by Patrick Kennedy. Episode 5. We're dropping this one, the prosecutor says, thrusting a statement into my hand. I scanned through it, expecting to see a retraction from star witness who, although at court to give evidence against my client Chavin...